Hello, hi everybody. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Frugal Phoebes. Again, my name is Phoebe. I got amazing feedback from the last video I posted. So today I'm going to be talking about a few things or a few suggestions or a suggestion that was given to me. I had asked for some feedback, and thankfully, thanks to you guys, I did get great feedback on the few things to talk about. So today I'm going to be talking about budgeting. How does one budget when a recession is around the corner? What does that look like? Even without a recession, how does one budget to budget in such a way where you're efficiently and effectively meeting your spending goals and meeting your financial goals? So there are a few things I want to talk about today. So hopefully I'm gonna go down the list as I have it. So first things first, if you listen to the last video, I talked about one of the things that I talked about was knowing exactly how much you spend monthly. In order to have a very efficient budget, you do need, before you create even a budget, you do need to be able to track your spending. You do need to be able to know how much you're bringing in as income every month. Unfortunately, there are a lot of us, we don't know what our spending looks like. I used to be that way. I think part of the reason why I used to be that way is because maybe I felt like what I was earning or the income I was bringing in was just never enough. So why write things down to basically find out what I already know or find out the obvious? When I started tracking my spending, it'd be amazing to realize the things that we buy, the places that we spend money. Sometimes we feel like, oh, we're just spending $1 here, a few cents there, but all of those things really add up. And before you know it, you start spending $100, $200, and up and up. So what are a few things that you can do to help yourself to be able to stay on a budget and make sure that you're not overspending monthly? So the first thing you need to do is track your spending. There's so many apps out there now that can help you to track your spending. I mentioned banking. With a lot of banks right now have some form of budgeting app or spending tracker. So if you bank with one of the big banks, find out if they do have a spending tracker. And if they do have a spending tracker, what you want to do is for maybe a month or two, make sure that your spending all happens on one card. So you can designate a card that you use to pay bills. You should have one card anyway, or a couple of cards that you use or accounts that you use to pay all your bills on. That helps in so many ways. The biggest thing it does is it helps you efficiently track what goes out, and it also helps you cut back on overdraft fees. A lot of times we have overdraft fees, not because we don't technically have the money, but sometimes we set up bill payments to accounts that we forget. We forget that we've set up bill payments to those accounts, and we only remember when we get an email that says that account has been overdrafted or a payment has been returned. So the biggest thing is to track all your spending using one or two cards or maybe one account. If you have a credit card with a large available credit, the easiest thing I would suggest is put all your spending on that credit card. You already know that you're going to get the money back. Depending on how often you get paid, you already know you're going to get the income in. So what happens is if you put all your spending on a credit card, at the end of the month or towards the end of the month, you pay it all back before interest is being charged. What that does is it helps you track your spending, number one, and it also helps build your credit. So if your credit is a little low right now, and trust me, we've all been there, so it's nothing to be embarrassed about. If your credit is a little low right now and you have a credit card, do that. Use the card to pay all your bills throughout the month, and just be sure that you're moving the money back into the card and paying down that card balance before 30 days. That way you don't get charged interest. So first things first, make sure that you track your spending using a spending tracker, or you use a card to pay all your bills. And once you do that, you will know, basically you will be able to determine what you spend the most on. So you want to divide up your expenses into things that like variable expenses and fixed expenses. Fixed expenses are things like your rent, if you have a car payment, your car payment, your insurance, all of those things are like fixed expenses. Utilities, you know that, well, not really. Electric changes from time to time, but fixed being that you know you have to pay your electric bill no matter what happens. So divide up your expenses into fixed expenses and then variable expenses. The fixed expenses, sometimes you don't have too much control over them, in terms of if you have a 1 year lease, I mean, your rent is going to be the same until that year is over. So there's not much control you have over that. Now, variable expenses are things like grocery shopping, shopping for clothing, shopping for makeup, shopping, just the things that you buy that are not really needs, but they're wants. A lot of our wants fall into the variable category. Now, there are certain things that we need. Yes, we need food. However, you know that you can spend $100 on food a week, or you can spend $300 on food a week, depending on your eating habits, on your feeding habits. What do I mean by that? If you go out all the time to eat dinner and you go out all the time to eat lunch, obviously your budget for spending will be much higher than somebody who home cooks all their meals, eats in, and prepares your own lunches. So essentially, that would be like a variable expense, meaning that you can control how much you spend. Now, when you track your expenses, and then you divide up those expenses into fixed or variable expenses. Now, the third thing you want to do is know how much you bring in after taxes monthly. That shouldn't be too hard. If you have a consistent job, and you should be able to, obviously by looking at your paycheck, provided you work a full 40-hour week. If you work more than a 40-hour week and you get paid more, great. But just average everything out to a 40-hour week. 40-hour week, 80-hour paycheck every 2 weeks. So if you can determine how much you bring in every month, that would be awesome. So that's the third thing. Now, when you know how much you bring in every month, put it on one column, write it down on one column. Then you can write down how much you spend. This is simple math. If how much you spend exceeds how much you bring in, you're running a deficit. If how much you bring in is more than how much you spend, great. You're not running a deficit. You still have something left over every month to either have discretionary spending, spend on wants at that point, or put it into a savings account. So if you have determined that your income is higher than your expenses, that's good, but you're still not in the clear. Meaning that if you go back and look at your expenses, there are areas in which you probably shouldn't be spending money on. If you have a habit, like a habit of going to maybe Starbucks every morning, or to get coffee, or you have a habit of going to Panera Bread, or maybe you have a habit of, buying things that you don't necessarily need. There's a difference between buying filet mignon or, I don't know, regular beef stew or regular beef or stew. You get my drift. So if you know, even if your income is higher, you have residue income at the end of the month after you pay all your expenses, that's good. But go back and double check your expenses and just look at the areas that you spend more. What you want to do is, if 50% of your paycheck covers your expenses. The other 30%, or maybe depending on what your financial goals are, the other 30% can go into your savings, or 20% can go into your savings, and then you use the remainder of that 70, the other 30%, you can use it for, I don't know, other variable expenses that may come up. The other thing I want to talk about is, what do you do if your expenses exceed your income? The first thing you want to do is go back. Look at your expenses, look at your variable expenses, figure out where you have a lot more money going out. Now, if you have cut back every cost in your variable expenses, what does that mean? It means that you're not frivolously spending. If you've figured out that you're not frivolously buying frivolously buying wants, now look at your fixed expenses. If you have an apartment or if you have a home and you can afford to have a roommate, that would be a great choice. If you're open to having a roommate and you can afford it, that would be an amazing choice to reduce your fixed expenses monthly. So if you have a roommate who maybe pays, let's just say $700 a month, that's $700 extra for you. Or if they pay $800, that's $800 extra for you that goes back into the pot of money that you have. So that's something to consider. If you're not open to getting a roommate, look for other means or other ways of bringing in more money. Maybe you should get a second job, a short-term second job. Maybe you can start a side hustle and see if you can start bringing in some money. So the bottom line is, if your expenses exceed your income, you're in bad shape. You're in bad shape, but that doesn't mean that you cannot get out of that place. It just means that you have a little bit more work to do, either by finding ways to increase your income, finding ways to cut your costs, etc. If you budget without a goal in mind, you're not going to have the tenacity to continue budgeting, especially if you're squeezing yourself when it comes to spending. You will just feel like you're not enjoying life. You will just feel like you're not living life, and it's going to become very tedious, and it's not really supposed to be tedious to carry out a budget. So you need to know your financial goals. Why do you basically want to have a good financial why do you want to be financially stable? Why do you want to have a successful financial life? Why do you want to have more money? Is it because you want to maybe send your kids to really great schools? Is it because you want to buy that amazing car you've been looking at? Is it because you want to spend money to buy that red bottom shoe? Whatever the case may be. Or is it maybe because you're wanting to make sure that when you retire, you have enough savings to basically meet your needs? Whatever the reason you're wanting to get on a good financial path is, whatever that reason is, find it, write it down. The reason why I say write it down is because as time goes on, as you start hitting those goals, go ahead and tick them off, cross them out. As you hit the goals, cross them out. It gives you a feeling of you're succeeding. It gives you a feeling of, it makes you feel like you're not just wasting your time. If you go to mint.com, and if you know any others, that's fine. It helps you stay on track with your budget. A few of the budget hacks that I have used in the past is, if I know that I want to spend only $300 monthly on food, for example, I make sure that I have like an envelope that I put the money in. So I put the money in when I go to the store. I see the money, I know that, okay, this is how much I have to spend. If I go over that budget, that's it. I don't have any more money. So when I spend that, I put the change back in the envelope. That becomes my food money. Other things like rent, I've always tried to cut my cost on rent. So I'm not one I've really not, how do I put this? If I am still at a certain point in my career, I don't believe that I should be living in a penthouse in maybe downtown Dallas or downtown, wherever your downtown is. I don't believe that I should be living in a penthouse or in an expensive high-rise downtown because I'm still in a particular point of my career. So I've always tried to find very cost-effective apartments or homes to stay in, to live in. That's helped me cut my costs a lot. So another thing is, along the way, if I determine that, okay, my expenses are almost getting out of hand, I'm open to getting a roommate. I get a roommate, and that also helps me greatly with some of these fixed expenses. Another thing is, with your electric bill, there are many ways of reducing your electric bill. I live in Texas. I don't know about you, but it gets really hot in Texas in the summertime, and there really is no way you can do without without the air conditioning system. So one of the things that really helps is, when you're not home, turn off your air conditioner. Make sure that the things that you can unplug them. That way it's not using up electricity while you're away from the home. There are several other things like water. You can control your water usage, which means that if you control your water usage, it helps you reduce your water bill. Now, if you're female like me and you like getting your hair done, you like getting your nails done, you like grooming yourself, there are many things you can do it yourself. So you can do a lot of things yourself, figure out what it is you're willing to do yourself. And for a lot of females, I realize that a lot of us have learned how to do our own hair. The way the world is nowadays, it's made it so easy for you to basically do your own hair. YouTube is a lifesaver. If you spend some time watching do-it-yourself videos on YouTube, trust me, before you know it, you become excellent. So, little things like that. Figure out how to do things yourself. If you have a home and something goes bad in your home, before you call somebody to come and fix it, figure out how to do it yourself. That gives you an opportunity to learn a new skill, at the same time save money. Now, I understand that it's not everything you may want to do yourself. You have to look at opportunity cost to see what's better to just outsource. There are a few other things like food. I can talk about this in another video, how to cost effectively grocery shop and how to cost effectively prepare meals that will not break the bank. So there are many other ways you can cut your cost. The biggest thing here is cut cost. When you start going into debt, when you start living above your income, you're living above your means, you start digging a financial hellhole for yourself, and then you find yourself starting to get loans. The worst one is getting payday loans. You never want to go there, you never want to do it. So right now, while you still have a job, while the economy is still, not as bad, one of the things that you really want to start doing now proactively is budgeting, cutting costs, making sure that you're maximizing your economic or financial potential while you still can. I'm going to do another video maybe later on for people who have lost their jobs. How do you budget when you don't have income coming in, basically? So how does one budget when you don't have income coming in after losing your job? So it is possible. Don't ever feel like, well, the money you have coming in is not large enough, so why even bother with budgeting? Because you're only going to find out that your income is not enough to cover your expenses. So don't worry. If you're listening to this and you're feeling guilty because your budget has been out of control, or you have no budget, please, we're all in the same boat. We've been there before. It's nothing to be ashamed about. Don't feel like, don't get intimidated by what you see on social media. To be honest, I work with a lot of clients, and you would be surprised at things that people do to either save money, or you'd be surprised at things that people do to keep up with appearances. You don't want to be that person who crashes. You basically crash your budget and crash your finances trying to keep up with the Joneses or trying to keep up appearances. So again, you can ask me if you have any questions. Feel free to ask me. Creating a budget is quite easy. There are many applications out there that can help you. If you're not sure about something, I'm available. I'm going to leave my contact information in the video. I hope this was helpful. If you think you want me to go more in depth with budgeting, do let me know, and I will have more practical, I'm going to post more practical links that you can follow through on that can help you with budgeting. And another dimension of budgeting is accountability. If you're looking for somebody who can hold you accountable, feel free to reach out to me. I can hold you accountable as a third party. So whatever the case may be, if you're needing help actually just penning things down, feel free to also reach out to me. But whatever the case may be, you're not alone. We've all been there. There is no shame. There's absolutely no shame in this game, because tomorrow, when you're living the life that you want and you're living the life that you desire, you're the one who is going to be enjoying, not me, not anybody else. So I hope this was helpful. Until next time, ciao. Thank you for watching.